Good morning and welcome to the Avon Valley Churches page. Welcome to the Saturday conversation, and this morning I'm delighted to be joined by the wonderful Kate Wilson, Associate Priest with the Avon Valley Churches. Now, you've seen us do lots of conversations, both Kate and I, but today I thought, because we're talking, well, I know that Gary's talking about vocations tomorrow. I thought that we would actually talk about vocations within vocations. Now, I'll give you a second to kind of get your head around this, but this is something that very much people are talking about at the moment. So I'm going to ask Kate a few questions to find out and so that you guys can know, but I think you already know what Kate's vocation within a vocation. But I'm going to ask Kate a few questions and just get her to talk about and illustrate what that actually means. So Kate, thank you for joining us. Would you like to say anything about yourself before we start?
No, not really. It's just lovely to be with you, Jo. It's really terrific. Thank you for asking me.
Oh, it's always a joy. So when were you ordained?
Well, I was ordained in 2003. And so that was 9 years after the first ordination of women in the Church of England. So I was actually quite of the early birds.
Yeah.
But I had started my journey towards ordination probably in the early 90s. So it took me a long time to get there.
Yeah, and people, when we think about ordination of women, it's not been that long in the history of time. It's been a very, very tiny amount of time. And so just tell us, what job did you do before you were called to ordination?
Oh, well, at the age of 18, I started a career in nursing. So I did my nurse training at Edinburgh Royal Infirmary up in Scotland, and I absolutely loved it. Although I had been offered a position for one of the first degree courses at Edinburgh University. But I said, no, I didn't want to go to university. I wanted to be on the wards and look after the patients. And then I had a very, very varied and wonderful career within the NHS, ending up as running all the emergencies and acute services across a true hospital trust. So there was no stress in that job, much.
And what do you think? Because I think your NHS background has really shaped your life as a priest. So how would you say that you used, so you went from nursing, so how many years did you do nursing?
Well, it started in 1965 and ended in 1999 in the NHS, right. But then went on to join two charities, one working with the hospice movement and working with Helen House Hospice in Oxford, and one as a trainer and facilitator for a charity called Bereavement Uk. And I came towards that because I noticed that in hospitals, we didn't deal with death and bereavement very well. And we didn't care for those who were bereaved. We didn't understand those who were bereaved. And also women who had miscarriages was a great passion of mine as well. Yeah. How we didn't look after women who had had a miscarriage. So there was I was very much into death and dying.
Yeah. And because that's one of the most important parts of ordained ministry, isn't it, is to deal with death and dying. So you get, I always think of it as having the highs and the lows of people's lives. So the weddings, the baptisms, but also the death, dying, the bereaved as well. And one of the things we see, don't we, very regularly, is people whose lives are impacted for many years because of bereavement. It's not just a lot of people think, oh well, it's fine after a few months, you know, you move on, and actually that's not what we see, is it? We see people who are struggling much for a long time after. So what would you say? So you come in, so you're called to ordination, you get through, you become a priest. So where do you end up at that point in time?
Well, it was quite interesting. One of my other great passions is cooking. I love cooking and I love catering. So I bring the fact to the table that I just adore feeding people and getting people around the table together and chatting and learning from each other. So I think where ministry is concerned, my two passions are, apart from all the other stuff, of course, that we have in ministry, is looking after people who are suffering loss in any way that could be, and also helping people get together. So I think those are really where because when I was a vicar in a parish, we used to host alpha courses in our house, and of course we would share out the cooking, but it was just feeding those people in these alpha courses, which was just a joy as far as I was concerned.
It is such a joy. I'm like you, Kate. Well, anyone who knows either of us knows that we both love cooking. And if you've ever eaten any of Kate's meals, you're very lucky because she's an amazing cook.
Well, I think I'm more of an assembler. I know what goes together and I can make things easy.
Honestly, you are a wonderful cook. One of the things that we've lost on the staff team during COVID is that we used to get together for a staff meal, and we all really miss that, don't we? We miss that fellowship, and being in each other's houses and just being able to relax together over a glass of wine. So, but it's coming back.
Yeah, it'll come back.
It will do. So what do you think, so how did you find being a priest after you've had all these years in the NHS? What was it like then to actually be in ministry?
Well, it's actually one of the most challenging jobs that you'll ever get, because it's just so multifaceted. There are no 2 days are the same, which is lovely, because that's why I went into nursing. I could never work in an office. I did try. But oh dear, I was so bored. It's just dreadful. So I love each day being different. There are no 2 days the same, but there are certain responsibilities and learning that you have to carry out. But also, I just love learning. You know, I like the fact that I love lifelong learning. So I'm always learning new things. And of course, you know, taking Bible studies or preaching sermons is just food to me, so that I can help others understand the Bible. So, I'm not a theological scholar.
What I'd like to say at that point, let's give a little plug to your Bible study group. What time's that, Kate, that you started during lockdown?
Yeah, it's usually at 2:30 on a Monday and 3:30 on a Wednesday. And we've been looking at women in the early church and how that has journeyed through the whole of the church ministry. Next week there won't be one because I'm just a little bit busy with webinars and safeguarding, but it will happen the next week on Monday at 2:30 and Wednesday at 3:30.
Brilliant. And if anyone is interested, because this is the wonderful thing about hybrid online church, is that if you are interested in doing Bible study with Kate, get in touch with us on the page, or you can email Kate. But as I say, if you get in touch with the page, we'll give you Kate's email and then you can join us. We would love you to. So my next question is, I always think that retirement, when people say, oh, they're retiring, there's this misconception about retirement that you're going to take it easy. And it's not like that, is it, Kate?
Well, I always look at retirement as being what's so wonderful is about the fact that you're free to choose what you want to do rather than what you have to do.
Yeah.
So poor Gary is caught up with all the legalities and the administration, and I just rock up and take a service or, you know, lead a Bible study. But I can say, no, well, actually, I'm taking 6 weeks off.
Yeah, yeah.
And not that I'm going to do that at the moment, because there's nowhere to go and nothing
There was
to
a
do.
sharp intake of breath then when everyone heard that. Relax, she's not going to do that. Apart from anything else, because we can't go anywhere at the moment. Okay, brilliant. And would you say, because what I'm fascinated about is that you've got this wonderful history in the NHS and supporting people with loss as a sort of an umbrella term for all of the amazing things that you've done. And you're still doing that, but you're also still doing your priestly, you're still actively involved in priestly ministry. So which do you think, now that you're retired, do you think you do more of one or more of the other, or do you think they're just going along together and sailing along together?
Well, for me, I think they're just going along together. I can't not be a priest, but I can be Kate the person.
Yeah.
So what I always try to do is to be Kate the person.
Yeah.
In what situation I want to be. So if I'm talking with someone who doesn't believe in the faith or has no time from the church, I feel that I need to be Kate the person.
Yeah.
And I found that I ended up, one of my last bits of my career was ending up in chaplaincy in Oakhaven Hospice down in Lymington.
Yeah.
And I just absolutely loved that, because we were for all faiths and none. So
Yeah.
I was ministering to people who had no idea about the Christian faith and had no idea about church.
Mm.
But because of my position, I was able to, well, I call it, I have a ministry in loitering. So I loitered around the tea bar and made people lots of cups of tea.
Yeah.
And that led to lots of conversations.
Yeah.
And for the first 4 or 5 conversations, I never mentioned anything about being a chaplain. I just got to know them. So I was being Kate the person, but also Kate the priest.
Brilliant. And just, I'm really glad you mentioned chaplaincy, actually, because I think chaplaincy is a really undervalued area of ministry. So if I was to say to you, Kate, because basically anyone can be a chaplain, can't they, in a particular environment. So let's say, for argument's sake, that you work in, I don't know, a local business, and there's 10 employees, and a chaplain, what might they be required to do if they wanted to do chaplaincy in that situation?
Well, you see, you have to look at the role of a chaplain. And again, a chaplain is there to show love to people. That's all they're there for.
Yeah.
And therefore, wouldn't it be amazing if we could be a chaplain to all the businesses in Fordingbridge and in the surrounding areas? Because that would be absolutely amazing. And all we're there for is to be someone who can offer support and love and care.
Yeah.
Because in every business, there will be a bereavement, there might be anxieties, children might be affected by something that's going on. And it's not all to do with death. It's all to do with any change in life.
It's life and death.
But it's anything in life that involves change, because anytime we have a change in our lives, we lose something.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if we could offer chaplaincy to all, say I could go into the co-op and say, oh, I'd quite like to be your chaplain. I wonder what the answer would be.
Yeah, and the weird thing is that chaplaincy comes under lots of titles. So I do a form of chaplaincy when it's normal time and I'm in Burgate, because I go and stand. I like your word loiter. That's a good one. I loiter by the vending machine and just chat to people. And the first few weeks was quite interesting because they were like, "Who are you?" But then as they got to know me, they used to come and see me and say, "Oh, it's Joe, how are you?" Yeah, that's what's lovely, isn't it? That's the amazing thing about chaplaincy. So if let me just say that actually at this point, if anybody is interested in chaplaincy, or wants or thinks that there's an area that they would like to offer our services, or they would like to maybe go in as a sort of support worker in those situations, do let us know, because we do this. I know Kate has done various bits of chaplaincy all over lots and lots. I don't know the full extent of chaplaincy all over Fordingbridge, but yes, do get in touch with us, because we are really there to support communities, aren't we?
And also, if anybody is interested, we would obviously offer training and, you know, really do everything very properly. You can't just pop in, by the way, and say, "I want to be your chaplain."
Yeah, and there are ways, and what's important about the training, apart from things like safeguarding, but it's also important for people to have an awareness about what sorts of things are acceptable and so on and so forth, particularly when you're working with vulnerable people. And Kate, I know, has got a whole massive team of people who do this sort of stuff all the time, haven't you?
Yeah, they're wonderful. My wonderful team is I can't do it all.
Yeah.
And neither can Gabby.
Yeah.
And it's not just down to ordained minister to be disciples. You know, it's so important that the church is seen as lay-led, really.
Yeah. One of the things, so I suppose if we were going to say, if we were looking at BCM streams and someone said, "Well, I really like the idea of doing chaplaincy," then they would be looking at something like BCM pastoral.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. That would be perfect. Yeah.
Yes, fantastic. So what would you, so if I said to you, Kate, because we've had this conversation, this is why I'm saying this to Kate, how important is it to have lay ministry in the church?
Well, it's vital, absolutely vital, because we don't need to have masses of ordained people, but we do need to have masses of disciples.
Yeah.
And therefore, because it's our disciples, everybody that visits a neighbour or phones a friend is being Jesus to those people.
Yeah.
And therefore, you know, we've got, well, today we had 26 people at our pastoral care catch-up meeting. So those 26 people, and that's just the ones that are in the official group, those 26 people are all disciples.
Yeah.
And therefore are being Jesus to all the people that they know, they phone up, they care about, they pray for, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, and it's this amazing network, because it's the 26 maybe that you've seen today, but actually how many people are each of those 26 supporting and visiting and phoning and so on and so forth. We know that they do so much. And I think for me, that's the one key thing about lay ministry, is that people know people better than we do. So it doesn't matter how good we are on the staff team, everyone who's part of the church knows far more about the local area, far more about the people than we do. So it's lovely to actually be able to, you know, things like BCM are about releasing people into ministry so they have confidence. And so they know that they can do it. Because so many people say, "Oh, well, I don't know, and have I got the time," and so on and so forth. But actually, the wonder of the team ministry that we have is that we've just got so many people who are out there doing things, connecting, helping, you know, also challenging us as well as a staff team and saying, look, is this okay? Do you really? And it's just, I have to say, I mean, we've had this conversation before, haven't we, Kate? Where we said, you know, you know, why is it so important to move away from this former model, this previous model of one priest, one church, nothing else? Like, being part of a team where we've got all these lay people who are involved as well, it's just so great. It's so exciting, isn't it? Like, all of us are excited all the time. When we have staff meetings, we're like, oh, that sounds good. Oh, it's lovely. It's absolutely lovely. So yes, so we need you, as it were.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Yeah, so, absolutely. Please join us. You know, get in touch.
Is there anything else you'd like to add before we finish, Kate?
No, I don't think so, really. I think we've covered quite a lot, really.
We've been talking for ages as well. I'm just looking at the clock. So anyway, thanks for joining me today, Kate. It's so lovely to talk to you. And as I say, get in touch if you're interested in helping out in any way, in any small way, as well as, you know, in a much more significant way. You know, even people who say, I can only help for half an hour, that makes a huge difference. Because, doesn't it, Kate? I mean,
absolutely.
You know, you see this on your team. So yes, don't be put off. Don't think, oh, I'm going to have to do that every week for the rest of my life until I drop dead. No, it's not like that at all. You know, you're free to do whatever. Thanks for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you whenever we can, if it's in services or if it's on Zoom. It's probably on Zoom at the moment. Take care. Thanks, Kate. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye.